Hello friends! Today I'm showing you how to gauge swatch for my Scorpio patterns. Hopefully by the end of this video you'll see how the stitch pattern works, and you'll believe me when I say it's a lot easier than it looks. Once you master the technique, you'll be able to make all the patterns in my Scorpio line. This video tutorial is intended to be followed along with the written instructions. It's not a full video tutorial for any of the patterns themselves. It's just a demonstration of the technique to better illustrate the steps for visual learners. You still have to buy the written instructions on Ravelry or Etsy in order to follow along. I'll leave the links down below. Full disclosure guys, they are all intermediate to advanced level patterns. I do not recommend them for a beginner level. Now, this being said, the techniques used in the gauge swatch are the most important, or the most difficult if you will. Side note before we begin, the written instructions for the gauge swatch in the raglan pattern are laid out a bit differently at the beginning of the gauge swatch, but the same concept applies. So, regardless what Scorpio pattern you want to make, this gauge swatch video demonstration should be helpful to you. So, let's get right into it. For this tutorial, I'm using a size 4 yarn and a 6mm hook. You'll start with your contrast color, which in my case is blue. The first row is worked on the right side. You'll start with a slip knot and chain 30. You'll work your first double crochet in the 5th chain from the hook. This is because the first 3 chains count as the first double crochet, and the 4th chain serves as the foundation chain of sorts for that first double crochet, which leaves me with the first 4 chains serving as my first stitch, and so I start working into the 5th chain. You'll notice I'm working into the back bump of chains here. Doing this leaves the regular front and back loops of the foundation chain empty, and it gives a better, more polished look to the finished piece. Here is the back bump. You can separate it from the other two because it's sitting alone on the back side of the chain. The first foundation row is complete. Before starting the next row, mark the first stitch so you don't lose track of it. Remember that the first stitch of the row was that chain 3 that you skipped when you worked into the 5th chain from your hook. So I'm marking the top loops of this 3rd chain. To start the next row, chain 1 and turn. Front post single crochet around each stitch across the row, including the marked stitch at the end of the row. This completes the second foundation row. For the 3rd foundation row, you'll turn and continue working with your contrast color. Chain 5, skip the first 2 stitches from previous row, and double crochet in the next stitch. The repeat is simple. Double crochet, chain 2, skip the next stitch. You do this all the way across. At the end of the row, secure the live loop with a stitch marker to put your contrast color on hold. We do this so the stitches don't get unraveled as you work with the next color. For the fourth and last foundation row, you don't turn. Pick up your main color and join it via slip stitch in the top loops that you marked earlier. You can then remove the marker. Chain 3 and skip the stitch where you joined. Double crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, skip the next stitch, and repeat this all the way across the row until one stitch remains. Double crochet in this stitch and turn. You're now done with the foundation rows and are ready to start the interlocking pattern. Pick up your contrast color back on your hook. Chain 5. Fold the blue row on top of the gray row so that the two are overlapping. Notice how each blue double crochet corresponds to a gray chain space, and each gray double crochet corresponds to a blue chain space. Look out for this alignment in your work. Skip the first 2 stitches. Double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 2, skip the next stitch, and repeat this once more. You have now essentially completed 2 double crochet stitches in front of previous row. We'll call this 2 F stitches. Since you work 2 F stitches on the current row, that means that on the previous row, you have to skip 2 chain spaces in order for the 2 layers to align properly. The next stitch on the current row is a B stitch. Working a B stitch means working a double crochet behind the corresponding chain space from previous row. This is literally what it sounds like. You insert your hook from behind the chain space, grab the double crochet from 2 rows below, and push it behind previous row. You then work the double crochet as you normally would, except it now literally sits behind the chain space from the previous row. This is what interlocks it, if you will. Since you had previously made 2 F stitches on current row, it means you have to skip 2 chain spaces on previous row. This means that the B stitch is worked behind the 3rd chain space from previous row. Now you'll work 3 F stitches on current row, one, 2, and 3, skipping 3 chain spaces on the previous row. Work a B stitch behind the 4th chain space from previous row, and keep in mind that a B stitch or an F stitch always means a double crochet followed by a chain 2 space. Repeat this sequence one more time, working 3 F stitches followed by a B stitch until 2 double crochets remain on the current row. Work 1 F stitch in the next stitch, followed by a double crochet. The last double crochet is the beginning chain 3 space. Secure the live loop. And this is row 1 completed, as seen from the wrong side. And here it is as seen from the right side. To start the next row, do not turn. The next row is also worked on the wrong side. Pick up your main color back on your hook. Chain 3. Work a B stitch in the next stitch, which literally means working the double crochet behind the stitches from the previous row. Work another B stitch. You have now worked a total of 2 B stitches, which means you need to skip 2 chain spaces. The next stitch on current row is an F stitch, which means the double crochet comes in front of the corresponding chain space. Insert your hook into the double crochet from 2 rows below and complete the double crochet. Complete 1 more F stitch. This is how it looks from the other side. You can see the 2 B stitches you did at the beginning of the row, followed by the 2 F stitches. The next 2 stitches are 2 B stitches. There's one behind previous row. And the second one, also behind previous row. Next, work 2 F stitches. Here's the first one, in front of previous row, and the second one, also in front of previous row. You can already start to see the pattern forming. So these 2 next stitches, the pattern already tells you they want to be B stitches. And the next 2 stitches, they kind of look like there should be F stitches now. The last 2 stitches of the row are 2 double crochets worked behind previous row. Remember, these are not technically B stitches because they don't have the chain 2 space between them. They are just 2 regular double crochets worked behind the previous row. Secure the live loop. This is how the row looks from the wrong side. You can see the squares already forming. And this is how it looks from the right side. You can see the little crosses or stars shaping up. To start the next row, turn and pick up your contrast color on your hook. Chain 5. Work a B stitch. On previous row, skip 1 chain 2 space and work an F stitch in the next double crochet. Now work 3 B stitches in these 3 double crochets from 2 rows below. You're now skipping 3 chain spaces on previous row because you made 3 B stitches on current row. The next stitch is 1F. Followed by 3 B stitches. Another F stitch. And finally, 2 more B stitches and then a double crochet in the last stitch to finish off the row. Here's the row from the right side and from the wrong side. To start the 4th row, do not turn and pick up the main color back on your hook. Chain 3. And this row is simple. It's F stitches all the way across. Here's the row from the right side. And from the wrong side. To start row 5, turn. Pick up your contrast color. Chain 5. The first stitch on this row is a B stitch, which means you have to go behind the first chain 2 space from previous row and work your first double crochet. You now work 3 F stitches, followed by a B stitch. You know the drill by now. Since you worked 3 F stitches on 2 rows below, on previous row you have to skip 3 chain 2 spaces and work your next B stitch. Carry on with 3 Fs. Followed by another B stitch. And finish off the row by working 3 Fs and 1 last double crochet. Here's row 5 from the wrong side. And from the right side. To start row 6, do not turn. Pick up your main color, chain 3, work 1 F, and another 1 F. You can already tell by now the next 2 stitches are going to be 2B. Here's the next star or cross forming already. Work 2 Bs, followed by 2 Fs, then another 2 Bs, and so on. Close the row by working 2 irregular double crochets behind the stitches from the previous row. Here's the row from the wrong side and from the right side. To start row 7, turn. Pick up your contrast color, chain 5. Work 3 B stitches. One, 2, and 3, followed by an F stitch, and so on, so forth until you reach the end of the row. Your last stitch will be a regular double crochet worked behind the stitches from previous row. Here's the row from the right side. And from the wrong side. To start row 8, which is also the last row of your 8-row repeat, do not turn. Pick up your main color and chain 3. And just like row 4, row 8 is very simple. It's all Fs all across. until you reach the end of the row, where you work 2 double crochets in front of the stitches from previous row. And there you have it. Row 8 from the right side, and from the wrong side. Repeat rows 1 through 8 2 or 3 more times. I really hope this video made sense to you and that it will help you complete any of the Scorpio patterns that you want to make. Let me know down below what you think, if you'll try the patterns, and yeah. Like, share and subscribe for more video tutorials from me in the future. Bye!